So when you're creating a wet room, there's many different types of tray which sits under the floor. So your ply will butt up to the edge of this. There's many out there that are polystyrene that I don't like. If they're going on a screed, that's fine, but you're going on timber floor, you get movement. The reason I like this one is because, as you can see, you have a disc, and this goes in, this is your waste. So sod's law, if you go with a fixed waste, you're going to be right on top of a joist. And then you've got to start recutting your whole floor, which is just a load of extra work. With this, if your joist is here, you just literally move it round and your waste goes there. So I much prefer this. It's solid. You can screw it down. It's got pre-drilled holes that are countersunk. So you screw this down to the floor and you butt your ply up to it. And as I say, with this, it just gives you flexibility, because if you've got a fixed hole, guaranteed it'll be right above one of these joists, and that's just a whole load more work. So once this goes down, we dry fit. So we work out exactly where this is going to go in relation to the waste. We've got a 2-inch waste there that we're teeing into. And then we cut the ply 3/4 inch, either marine ply or hardwood ply, up to the edge. This is 3/4 inch tray. And then that gives you your floor, which is then ready for tanking. So the great thing with these wet room trays, the fall is built into it. So you haven't got to start cutting joists and making your own fall. This fall, you can see, if you put that there, you can see this here is running down, so you don't have to worry about cutting the floor. This simply sits on top. The fall is here. With this tray, they come in set sizes, so if you get too big rather than too small. And worst case, as you can see from here, which is the end of the shower area, you can either cut this bit off or just tile over it. You can see the fall starts to come down, so worst case, you can just have more water coming into the middle rather than having it sitting stagnant, because what you don't want is a perfectly flat floor. You need this fall. So this will sit in perfectly, the fall's all here, so that's ready for tanking. So we fix this in, this is all perfectly level. This has been siliconed in and fixed and sealed. And then the waste has also gone in, coming out there to connect up later on. So this is all now square. The next stage, we've got to go around, scrim these gaps with this tape. And then we use part of this waterproofing system. This is by a brand called Ardex, which I like a lot of their gear, adhesive, grout, etc. But this is the waterproofing system. There's loads of other brands that you can use. The first thing you do with this is knock up the powder, and then that forms a solid finish in any small gaps. So what you do is you use your scrim on these gaps. So you basically, just like you're doing it with your plasterboard. In order not to end up with a curve, just make sure you push it. You can see it moving down, and so otherwise you end up with a curve and it can kick the bottom tile out. So you just run your finger along and then push it in. So you can see you've got that tape there to help with any movement. And what I recommend, you run it along the bottom and then also up the side here. So this is the powder you knock up with water. This basically fills your gaps that we've just scrimmed. Just a warning, you don't have a lot of playtime. This was knocked up less than 10 minutes ago. And you can see it's already going. This is pretty much perfect now. You don't want it too loose or it's just going to run around. You don't want it too thick because you're not going to have any playtime with it. And you literally just push it in. So all the edges are scrimmed. We've put the compound in, which is waterproof, so if any movement does happen, it shouldn't do, but if it does, this is completely waterproof. To be honest, there's probably a load of old tilers been doing this 30, 40 years, looking at this thinking you do not need to do that. Bearing in mind, tiles used to be laid on sand and cement and they lasted for decades. However, all these new products and everything coming out, this is belt and braces, fail proof, waterproofing system. So if there is any problems with the grout, if tiles crack, they shouldn't because you've got a solid base and walls, then this is going to create a completely waterproof tray underneath. So this is again a waterproofing system. You can use it on floors and walls. To be honest, the Impy tray we've got supplies its own matting membrane. This one is a separate brand that I mentioned, Ardex. You put 2 coats of this on, you can see it's a really gloopy, thick. That's the consistency you want. You don't want it too runny so it runs down, you don't want it too thick. This is about right, so it has 2 coats, but when this dries and cures, it ends up 100% waterproof. So if you do have a crack in the grout or a tile goes, again, you don't have to use it, but this is belt and braces, making sure that it's completely waterproof. Overlap at the bottom, so again, it's just running down into what we've just put on. Doesn't matter about missing the odd bit because your second coat will pick that up. But you just run it down into the bottom. So the whole wall is then waterproof. As I say, any bits you miss, the second coat will pick up. So once you've painted, you can see this going off. When it's dry, it's a different colour. This is still a bit tacky. This is bone dry. Once it has cured, which usually takes about an hour, depending on humidity, you can literally then just trowel your adhesive straight on, tile grout, clean it and seal. So the first piece of tanking we put on is the side strips that has 4 inches on the floor and then 4 inches up the wall. So the best thing to do is to do piece by piece. If you take all the back off and it sticks together, you won't separate it. It's got to go in the skip. So the best thing is do your floor first, peel it off as you go, and then that bit is still over. You can peel your back off and then stick it up the wall. You do the same on the other wall, and then once you've done that, you do your corner piece. And again, you peel that all off, push the corner in, run it up, and then that there will create a completely waterproof area. The final piece we do is the floor. This is the actual roll of membrane. And again, if you start it at the top to meet the wall and take it off piece by piece and roll it out gradually, pushing out any air gaps until you get to the end. Once you've laid the whole mat down, the waterproof membrane, you use a hook blade around your template, cut it back, lift it out, and then stick it all back down around the edges. So a quick summary of what we've done. We've got the cement board, which is waterproof. You've got your paint on waterproofing system, which is also waterproof. Then you've got your strips around the edges, your corner piece, then you roll over the top. So this is actually covered where the ply meets the board. We use the scrim and the jointing compound that's waterproof. So now we've got a perfectly waterproof area. If you want to tank the whole room, you take it up to the edge and again take it 4 inches up the wall and use your jointing strip over the top, and it gives you a completely waterproof wet room. So the next stage is, this is now waterproof. You literally trowel on adhesive and then tile on top. We recommend with this either big tiles that you can put neat cuts in, which gives you your fall, or smaller mosaics, which will take the shape of the fall. You don't have to worry about fall because it's already in the tray. You've got your natural fall towards the drain, and then once the tiles are down, you grout, seal and clean.